We're going to try something wild and different today. We're going to outline a Bill of Rights as it would be written today if you look at the things that the vast majority of Americans agree on. I'm Jim VandeHei, co-founder and CEO of Axios.
I'm Mike Allen, co-founder of Axios.
So the germ of this was you and I have been talking for some time about how most people agree on most things most of the time. And so we wanted to do this mental exercise of let's dig into the data, the most reliable, kind of biggest sample, highest quality polls on the biggest topics and see where people actually agree. And it was kind of eye-opening.
And that's the big lie. We listen to campaigns, we listen to the media. We think that these problems are too big or the country's too split to make a difference. Turns out that's a big lie.
Okay, let's prove that, right? Okay, so let's do, I'm going to have to go to my notes because I can't memorize everything. Number one, the government should have no say in what we say, how we pray, how we protest, who we love, provided we act legally.
Truth bomb, 80% of people think that the government has gone too far in restricting expression. And you might think, oh, well, those are just people who hate Trump. No. Interesting. 88% of Democrats, 88% of independents. That is America, and that is the most politically sensitive, persuasive group.
And you see it in polling on religious freedom, on the right to marry, and freedom of speech. And in almost every case, it's very bipartisan. Number two, Article 2, the government should secure the border and settle the status of those that are here.
2/3 of Americans want both of those things. 80% of people say immigration is good for the country. And the takeaway from that is that people are realistic. They don't want chaos or cruelty. They want order. They want pragmatism.
Article 3, the government should do its basic job of protecting the country and then do less.
Yeah. What do 2/3 of Americans think? Whether you're Republican, Democrat, Independent, they think that the government does too much. Only 1/3 of Americans, way less than half, trust the government to do what's right. That's in our bones. That's how Americans have felt for 250 years. It hasn't changed.
And their instincts are right. Like you're better off when you can solving these problems at the local level, allowing people closest to the problem to fix it.
And that was always the American design.
Number 4, the government should stop spending money we don't have on things we don't need.
This is where Americans are a lot smarter than the people who lead us. People know their own finances. They know the finances of the places that they work. And this, again, we dug into the data. This is another issue. It unites Republicans, Democrats, Independents. They all say that we should not avert our gaze from this issue.
Article 5, the government should stop pretending that the education system is not a joke.
This is sad. We see the right track, wrong track figures for the country. What direction is the country going? I had never seen this. On higher education, way more than 70% of people, Republicans, Democrats, Independent, think that colleges are failing. Only 30% of Americans think that K through 12 education is serving our kids. Almost everyone think it's headed in the wrong direction.
And it's both. Like people are down on the college system, they're down on the high school and grade level system. Like people uniformly know it's broke. Why do they know it? Because their kids go to these schools and they live this crap. Number 6, maybe a tiny bit controversial, but the polls bear it out. The government should allow guns, but impose sensible regulations. This one has been true for 20 plus years in terms of where the public is and the distance between them and kind of what we get on the governing side.
Lots of Americans own a gun, at least 1/3 of Americans, lots more know someone who does. But look at these numbers. 97% of Americans think that you should have a background check to buy a gun.
The 97% is unheard of in polling. That's called unanimity. Number 7 is the government should start caring about workers as much as it does the rich and powerful.
80% of Americans are worried about the wealth gap. Why? They feel like the system is rigged and they're the ones on the short end of the stick.
And they don't trust business. They don't trust government. And they feel, I think rightly so, that if you give money or you are in kind of the upper 5 percentile, that everything is bent their way and against you. The biggest shift that would make the biggest difference for the most people is to focus on workers and not the wealthy. Number 8, the Article 8, government should stop micromanaging business and just impose sensible regulations.
More than half of small businesses say federal regulations are holding them back. And listen to the stories about trying to start a business. It could be impossible. Sometimes
Yeah.
people just give up.
Yes, and, like, people get frustrated when they feel like government's picking winners or losers. We saw this under Biden, we've seen it under Trump. The polling shows people just don't like that. They want the markets to work like markets, and they don't oppose regulation. They just want sensible regulation. If you're a small business owner, you wanna do the right thing, but you wanna also be able to make money and not have to deal with things that just feel arbitrary, unfair, and really unworkable.
That's just it. I think a lot of it is complexity and incompetence by the government.
Number 9, the government should take seriously its duty to remind American citizens what a great country they live in. I'm reminded of this. I did a speech the other day, and it was the first time since I was in Catholic school, in grade school, in Oshkosh, that they opened the event by doing the Pledge of Allegiance. Like, that used to be so commonplace, these little reminders that you live in a great place and you have a common bond.
Yeah, 60% of Americans are still extremely proud, very proud to be an Americans. And what's the government that they trust most? Two-thirds of people trust local government most. And so they trust public life, they trust their leaders, they just don't like the feds.
If I could wave a magic wand, like, I would find some mechanism where you could kind of regain the spirit we had as a country after 9/11, which is the last time everyone was unified and felt like all of one country on one team. Like, whether it's teaching kids when they're very young about the greatness of America in a more systematic way, or just requiring people to have some kind of service, whether it's at a young age or when you're getting out of high school, just so there's this common bond. If you think about why countries, why communities stay together, it's that they're unified, and they're unified under like a higher purpose.
Well, we felt a glimmer of this with the Winter Olympics. We need to keep the Olympics going all year.
10th and final one, government should prohibit people from profiting off their power in government.
Look at Americans who want restrictions on members of Congress buying stock. Republicans in the 80s, Democrats in the 80s, independents in the 80s. The only thing people hate more than grift is insidery grift.
You nailed it. People want to send people to Washington to do work to make the country better. They don't want them getting rich. Nothing pisses them off more than seeing other people walk away wealthy from a few years of government service.
When we travel the country, people ask us, what can be done? Now we see it. Here are 10 things that can be done.
And the bottom line is, like, you could quibble with any of these 10 amendments. We're kind of doing it as a structure for a conversation, but I think it does capture very vividly on most of the big topics. Most people agree on most things. So when you think about, okay, how do we build back better as a country, that's a pretty damn good place to start.
We're not as broken as we think.